Hey everyone, welcome back and thanks for checking out today's video. My name is Dan and this is the EvolvedJeepin channel. Today's video is actually the second part to our two-part bumper transformation project, where on the first video we installed Rival's aluminum stubby front bumper. If you have not seen that video, make sure to go check it out so you can find out what this bumper is all about and how to install it. To complete the project today, what we're going to be doing is installing Rival's full-width aluminum rear bumper to match the front one. So as usual, what we're going to do is we're going to dive straight into the installation, get the bumper installed, and then we'll regroup to show you what it's all about and discuss our thoughts and opinions. So the first step of the installation is going to be to remove the Rugged Ridge HD rear bumper that I currently have installed on my Jeep. If you have the stock bumper, this is going to be a lot easier because all you have to do is follow along on Rival's instructions or their online video to see exactly how to remove the stock bumper and get this vehicle ready to install the new one. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fast forward through the disassembly of the HD rear one, and then we'll regroup at the beginning of the installation of the new bumper. Now that we've got the bumper removed, we can now start installing some of the components for the new bumper. The first components that we're going to install are these frame brackets. There are two brackets, one for the driver's side and one for the passenger side. What you're going to do is you're going to take the bracket and slide it over the frame rail, just like this, putting it in place. Then you're going to secure it with two OEM bolts right here, and then two OEM bolts right here. Then you're going to use the provided M14 by 35 bolts. There are two of them, and you're going to slide them up through the bottom here and secure it in place. For the driver's side, there are already two bolts in the frame, but for the passenger side, there are no bolts. So what you actually have to use is this bracket piece right here. What you're going to do is you're going to custom bend this into an S shape, and you're going to slide it in here, position it in place, and then do the whole bolts up. So what we're going to do is we're going to secure both of these brackets, and then we'll regroup for the next step. So small update when you're doing the passenger side, the bottom bolts are not going to be the M14 bolts. You're going to use the M12 by 30 bolts. So that's what you're going to use underneath. So let's continue on. Now that we've got the frame rails installed, the next part is to install the trailer hitch that Rival provides for their bumper. So all we're gonna do is slide it up into place. Then using our M12 120 bolts, we're gonna slide those in. Using a nut, secure the end. So let's run all four and then we'll go into the next step. The next step to the installation is to install our tow hooks. So these actually come in standard black powder coating. What I've done here is customize them using a neon yellow vinyl wrap. This is just to match my accent colors, and I'll go into more details at the end about this. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take one and put it on the driver's side on the inside of the frame rail. Then we're gonna take another one and put it on the inside of the passenger rail. To secure them in place, you're gonna use M12 by 50 bolts, and you're gonna use 2 at the top and the middle. Then for the bottom one, you're actually gonna use the same bolt, but you're gonna add this silver washer spacer piece right here, just like this, and that's gonna go in the bottom hole. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna secure these in place, and then once we have them secured in place, what we're gonna have to do is measure from hook to hook on the outside edges to determine the distance. The distance that we're looking to try and get is 29.84 to 30 inches. We want to get our brackets in that space, and what we're going to do is if they're not in that distance, we're going to use these spacers here, and we're going to put equal amounts on both sides to get it within that spacing so that the bumper will slide on. So let's go ahead and get that all installed and put into place. So the next part of the instructions are all about the instructions on how to install the license plate bracket for the Rival rear bumper. This bracket includes everything you need to relocate your license plate light, and in the instructions it shows you all the details on how to take out all the stock wiring from the stock bumper so that you could reutilize it for this bumper. For myself, I am not going to be doing that in this video because I already have the spare tire license plate bracket, so I'm not going to need the license plate bracket that comes with the Rival bumper. So what that means is our next step to the installation is to get the rear bumper ready to be installed on the Jeep. So the first thing we need to do is install the parking sensors for the JL. Well, what we need to do is we actually have to take the bumper and punch out these holes that are already sitting here in the bumper. The reason that these are filled right now is because this bumper is also able to be used with the JK, which do not have the parking sensors. So what we're going to do is punch these out. Then we're going to use the provided brackets that they have and the hardware to secure the parking sensor in and run the wire. So let's go ahead and get that all put together, and then we'll move on to the next part, which is putting the bumper on the Jeep. Now that we have the bumper wired up and ready to go with the parking sensors, the next part is to simply put the bumper on the Jeep. So what we're gonna do is take the bumper and slide it over top of the hooks. Once it's in place, we're gonna use the provided countersunk bolts and secure it with 2 bolts on each side of the hook. Before I even got to doing this, I noticed that my dual exhaust was gonna be an issue. So what was happening was my dual exhaust was located in this location. Well, there was not enough spot or room for the bumper to go through. So what I had to do was go in and disconnect the mounting brackets up there on both sides so that I can pull the exhaust down to fit the bumper in. I'm probably gonna have to figure out a solution for that or possibly remove the dual exhaust, depends on what I feel like doing. But we're gonna deal with that after we get the bumper on. So let's go ahead and put the bumper on now and see what it looks like. The last part to the installation is to secure our trailer wiring harness plug in place. Well, unfortunately with this Mopar bracket, when I put it up on the frame, you can see it's too tight and you can't open up the plug doors. Nowhere in the instructions they had a solution on what you're supposed to do, but what I found was these washer type things that came in the kit. They're probably for if you're installing this bumper on the JK, you would utilize these. But for me, I'm gonna use these to offset the plug so that it sits a little lower and you can open up the door. So let's go ahead and do that and then we'll be finished the installation. As you can see, I've finished the installation of the Rival full width aluminum rear bumper, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed on the way it turned out. The installation was very straightforward and easy to do. I only had one complication, and it actually had to do with the fact that I have the MagnaFlow dual exhaust on the back. What my issue was basically I did not have enough clearance between the exhaust tip and the bumper. So what I had to do during the installation is undo the brackets that hold the exhaust up in place, bend the exhaust down slightly, then reinstall those brackets in a different orientation to give me enough clearance to clear the bumper. If you have a stock exhaust, you're not going to run into any problems like that, and the installation is going to be fairly straightforward, and you'll just follow the instructions that Rival has given. Speaking of instructions, the instructions were really easy to follow along. There was nothing too complicated. I might have had a better understanding because the instructions for the rear were very similar to the way that you did the front, so it made it really easy for me to move pretty quickly through it. If you do get confused or complicated, I do highly suggest following their YouTube video where it shows you step by step, bolt by bolt, the steps to do to get this bumper installed. As mentioned, these bumpers are their second generation of the aluminum series. What they did is they changed the construction of the hooks. The previous generation had the steel hooks mounted on the outside of the bumper. So you basically had a steel bracket that mounted through the bumper and into the frame. Now what they've done is they have it coming out of the bumper and attached directly to the frame rail. I really like this design because I think it gives it a higher quality feel and finish, and it also gives you the ability to do what I've done here and customize the hooks a little bit. So as a reminder, these hooks come in black. To begin with, what I have done here is I vinyl wrapped the hooks to match my accent color. The next thing I really like about this bumper is the fact that it is aluminum and it makes it really lightweight. That helps with insulation because lifting this large bumper up, if it were steel, it would definitely be a lot of work, where with the fact that it's aluminum, it made it really easy to get it into place. One thing I also did was I wanted to compare the weight of this bumper to my Rugged Ridge HD rear bumper, which is full steel. And as you can see, the bumper was a lot lighter, and it's very surprising because the bumper is actually slightly bigger. So it'll be interesting to see if I have any benefits of this, maybe some improved gas mileage, but most likely not because it is still a Jeep with 38s. But it is nice to see that having a lighter weight bumper and still have some strength is a pretty good plus. The next thing I really like about this bumper is the fact that it is a full width bumper. As I mentioned, one of my requirements when I was looking for bumpers was I wanted a bumper that gave me full coverage on the back of the Jeep. So this one wraps all the way around and ties really nicely into the fenders, perfectly lined up, and looks really stock-like and meant to be there. So unfortunately, I do have a few dislikes, but before I discuss those dislikes, let's take a look at a few other features I haven't mentioned. The first one, similar to the front bumper, is the hijack receiving point. What's great here is they designed a spot for you to be able to lift your vehicle from the bumper, but it does not push on the aluminum bumper. What it is it's pushing up on the steel bracket that we added to the frame rail. So what this does is it gives you the confidence to know that you can jack up your vehicle from your bumper without damaging the aluminum shell of it. The next thing I really like is the fact that they provided this trailer hitch that is designed perfectly for the bumper. That's most likely because this bumper does have a little bit more depth than a lot of factory Jeep parts or aftermarket ones. So they wanted to provide this so that you had the correct hitch to work with the bumper. Nevertheless, I'm still happy that they provide that because if your Jeep did not come with a trailer hitch point, you now have one integrated into your bumper. So I have 3 dislikes about this bumper, and they're not really dislikes that would prevent me from buying it. They're more things to know. So the first thing, unfortunately, had to do with the way it was packaged. Luckily, this bumper was wrapped a lot better than the front bumper, but it still did get a little bit dinged up during delivery. So an example of this is right here. You can see there's some damage here that I'm gonna have to paint over because the aluminum is exposed. It's very disappointing that you get a new product and it has marks like that. So the next issue I had to do with the rear parking sensors. So what you had to do when you were installing these is you actually had to punch out a part of the bumper. I didn't like that because when you are punching them out, you were exposing the aluminum to the elements. It's not protected by any powder coating, so I'm a little weary about how this is gonna wear, and I really do hope that there isn't anything that happens because that aluminum is exposed. I'm really surprised that they did this, especially because this is their 2nd generation, and with a lot of vehicles, it is pretty much standard that you now have parking sensors on your vehicle. So I figured maybe when they were doing this 2nd generation, they should have just left those holes wide open and finished them up nicely so there was an easy installation and you were confident that there wasn't going to be any issues with corrosion or anything like that. The last issue I have with this bumper is more me just nitpicking the overall design. It is not something that would prevent me from buying it, but it is something that I did not notice during my research, and I only noticed it once it was installed. And the issue has to do with the design and the way that the bumper dips down. So you can see here, the bumper has a nice high clearance on the sides, but then it comes around and dips down. What I don't like about that is it exposes the pinch seams on the rear of the tub, which to me just doesn't look that professional or that clean. I would have rather them just possibly just follow this line across and then dip down where the spare is, and it would have looked slightly better. Again, this is not an issue that would prevent me from buying it, but it is something that's worth noting so that you understand what you're getting when you purchase this. Overall, I'm pretty happy about the way this bumper turned out. As I mentioned in my first part of this project, what I was trying to look for was a stubby front bumper to put on my Jeep to give me improved tire clearance. And what I was looking for was to find a brand that also had a good looking rear bumper to match whatever stubby bumper I went with on the front. The brand that I found is Rival, and I have to say this bumper did exactly what I needed. It gives me the full width clearance and matches that front bumper that I installed on the last video. So another thing worth mentioning is that these bumpers are not that expensive. This rear bumper only ended up costing me $750, and the front bumper, as mentioned in the last video, was only $799. So overall, to put two really good bumpers on your Jeep, you're only looking at about like $1,500. It's really not that bad, especially for the quality that you're getting from the Rival brand. If you are interested in this bumper or the front bumper that I showed at the beginning of this video, I will put links below and you can go check them out for yourself. If you have any questions or comments about this rear bumper and its installation, feel free to post them below and I'll do the best to answer them. As usual, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And at this time, guys, we'll see you guys on the next video.